Be happy. Be happy.
Be happy. Be happy, mommy.
Come on, keep your chill. Enjoy this time.
Smile.
Smile, smile, my darling.
Honey, you have to count your blessings.
We are so inspired by the community we're building here at Creative Mamas Unplugged. Please take a moment to hit that subscribe button, share a comment, and rate our show. We promise to continue to pour our hearts and souls into making this show even more enriching and uplifting. Your support means the world to us and helps our community grow. Welcome to Creative Mamas Unplugged. We are your hosts. I'm Cherice Barton.
And I'm Shelly Hutchinson. Creative Mamas Unplugged is a podcast where we navigate the hell out of being a creative mom with humor and heart.
We will have honest conversations,
Hear wise words from fellow badass mamas.
and share hilarious stories around motherhood for some much-needed comic relief. Listen, motherhood is the most creative, most difficult job in the world. You are not alone, and you deserve to be happy. Today, you are in for a treat, a return to the quiet wisdom within. We are joined by our dear friend, the luminous Julie Nguyen, a movement artist, intuitive, trauma-informed somatic practitioner, and mom. We are honored to have her in our lives and to share this deeply nourishing conversation. Today, we explore the power of intuition, the path from performance to presence, the radical idea of designing a life that feels as good as it looks, and most beautifully, we dive into the rising wave of the divine feminine. You know, the soft, unshakable power we hold as women and as mothers and as creatives. So Julie gently reminds us your body holds the truth. Your joy is sacred, and the healing begins when we allow it. Take a breath. This one is for your heart.
I'll invite each of us just to connect to the physical self, to the body, to the heart space, just setting the intention and the awareness to connect to, just different parts of the body, just a gentle hello. And then I am setting the intention. Anybody who listens is gaining the inspiration or the nuggets of wisdom or the greater remembrance that we are all one in this journey of life. And as we share our stories of wisdom ripple out into the world, offering light, guidance, and support for others. All right, you ready to have some fun? First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
It's good to meet you, Julie.
Nice to meet you too.
Look like a movie star.
Oh, I will accept that. I would love that. My inner part of me wants to be a rock star, but I tend to do most of my work here in my office. So
It's a small environment, but a big heart. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's great to meet you. Thank you so much for doing this. And I'm really excited as to what will transpire in our conversation. How do you find your intuition?
I think I leaned on it really heavily, actually, as a kid, just because of the circumstances of my family and my childhood, that I had to lean on something. So I think from a very young age, I anchored into a faith of some sort and imagination and this inner trusting. But I will say, everybody, we all have this sixth sense inside of us. It's just on how we name it and how we strengthen it is what I'm realizing. It's just like any other muscle. When you go to the gym and you're working on your muscles, having an awareness of how can I also strengthen one little lift, one little curl at a time, my intuition and my own inner wisdom and my own guidance system. So I think over time, I needed it actually as a life float, but over time, I've learned how to befriend it actually. And then the thing that's coming up for me now is once I can really trust and lean on my intuition and this guidance that's coming through, it's actually offering a really incredible opportunity to ask the question of then what does freedom look like? What does this feel like to then expand into my life in a really authentic way?
I love that answer because I feel like it's something that right? The feeling versus I feel like I've always had an intuition that and same as you feel like I've practiced listening to it starting from being a child. But there are times where I feel like I think I know what my intuition is. Sometimes I wonder if it's a feeling or if it's like words that present themselves into my head, like, don't get on this elevator right now, versus like, something just kind of feels off. I don't know that I want to walk into that space right now. And I've just been thinking about that lately in my adult life, how as moms, we have an unspoken intuition, like we just know. But then sometimes I feel like, is your intuition, sometimes do they present themselves as messages in your brain, or is it more of a guttural feeling, or is it just this different for everyone?
Well, I do know that we have access to information from the brain, from the heart space, and from the gut. And all 3 points are working at the same time to give us information. If we can really, like, literally making contact, if we don't trust our intuition, make contact with the heart space, because the mind is designed to keep us safe. And it's always tracking for safety and organization and to make sense of things. So the mind holds its own ability to, help us navigate through the world, but it's the wisdom of the heart space, which is really where our intuition lies. So if it feels here, I think that's how you can tell a little bit more. The mind is going to be really loud, and and the wisdom that we hold is soft and it's gentle and it's quiet. And I think that's how you can also differentiate between, is this my mind wanting to keep me safe, or is this my ego, or is this really soul essence, guidance, intuition, and that usually comes in softer.
And that's what that needs to be, not literally, but the louder voice.
I wish it was. Listening to that trust, I think where it gets tricky is because the outside world gets really loud. So then, that protective mama bear instinct comes in and we become louder. And then the louder we become, it's harder then to hear what it is that we really want, who we want to be as mothers, what we want to have for our family, what kind of memories we want to create, So I think that's the tricky thing too, is being able to hold this awareness that, the pressures of the outside world as far as, going to school and making sure that they're in all these programs and like doing all of this stuff. But then the bigger question is that authentic and organic for us, for my child, for me, for the family? Like, is this really how we want to design our lives? And then it comes back to listening to the heart.
I love that so much. It's so true, Julie. But it's so true because I've been noticing lately that the part of me that thinks things are right and that I know what is right for my children, for me, and yet when I allow myself to kind of just relax into it, I realize, wait a second, here I was trying to control all this stuff because I thought it was best for them. But actually, if I just trust and, like you said, kind of like tap in to really what is beneath the surface, it's revealed that actually, you're really good at thinking that you know what is right for everyone all of the time. And that's not necessarily true. And like you said, that's the mind coming in, right? That's the mind, that's society, that's the outside world, as you said. How would you say, for example, Shelly's schedule right now, she doesn't even have like 5 minutes to eat. She's got so many projects. She's got so much work. She's got her kids and their baseball practice. She's running from one place to another. How do you tap into that inner voice, that intuition, when there's literally no time?
And this is where I'm just going to tap into a greater wisdom too, to kind of access that question, because I feel like it's universal. I feel like, and this might get too woo-woo, but there is a rise of the divine feminine energy that's coming up to really meet and be present on the earth right now that matches the beauty of the divine masculine energy. But what the difference is the divine feminine energy is softer. It is also, it's like a loving presence. It's a softer power. It's an ability to step back every once in a while and kind of see the bigger picture of things. And it's about allowing yourself to receive. And I think as women, we get caught in all of the things we have to do, work, and we have to be everything. You're not just a mom, and then you're also in work, and you're a creative, and you have to do the dishes, and you have to plan the kids' schedule, and you have to do their meal. Like, and where do we put ourselves in that mix? We tend to not. So I think to answer the question is, how do we do it all sustainably? I think it is making sure always that we are giving ourselves what we need as well, and putting ourselves right there in the mix of the priorities. I'm currently running like a women's circle group, and it's interesting because how many people can't make it because, they're remodeling their house or and it's like, and this is where it gets tricky, because we have these things that we know, if I do this, it's going to make me feel better. I love the best version. I love it when the best version of myself can show up. And I also know that version can't show up all the time when I'm doing all of these things. So I think a short answer is, how do you prioritize yourself and make yourself a priority? Simple, things that you can do that you remember who you are. A super aware sense of what does self-love actually look like.
Like self-love, like not so much. If we could maybe rephrase self-care and use self-love.
Ooh.
Because self-care, Sharon and I talk about this all the time. We're just like, what? Like, what's that? Like, come on. And it's such a marketing term too. So it's like, I'm not spiritually there where I can, I'm still in this place where like, I will disappoint myself before I disappoint other people. Right. Like, it's like, still, I have a little bit of traces of that. And I just feel like, I don't know, self-care. I still have a hard time with that. The self-love, if I could replace self-care with self-love, it resonates a lot more with me personally. So thanks for throwing that out there, because it shifted something in my head just now.
And when you take that inward, the energy around it feels like, then I'm in love with all of my life. Then all of the things on my to-do list don't feel like all these things I have to do, but they're things that I actually love doing. And so it feels like the self-love piece actually opens up space for you to do it all, because you actually love doing it, and you love these versions of yourself that you get to be when you're doing these things.
100%. I love my life. I'm happier than I've ever been in my entire life, which sounds crazy because the bags under my eyes are like, that doesn't look like you. You know what I mean? But I feel like, but that, to your point, I love my life. Why wouldn't I feel that self-love opens up the idea that you're doing what you love? You love being a mom. You love working. You love what you do. You love making dinners. Like, truly.
I love that. And this is why I love conversations like this too, because it kind of comes in at a different angle and a different reframe.
Can you just explain to us a little bit your journey from being a dance teacher to an energy guide and an intuitive guide? And you're also a podcast host. You're a mom. So bring us on your journey for a second.
Perfect. I'll give you the quick one. I started dancing just like most people. My mom put me in dance when I was 3. And then I moved to Colorado, and from Ohio, moved to Colorado. Didn't really have any direction. And my training, 3 to 18, it was very basic and simple. And so when I came to Colorado, it was like a bigger world. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like this is dance. So I was behind. I've never taken jazz class before. I've never taken a hip hop class before. And I've never taken tap in a way that was being presented to me at the time. So I became completely interested in dance all over again. And at 18 out here in Colorado, I started taking all the classes that I possibly could as a beginner again. And then I ended up opening up a studio at 21. So, and that's how I met Tony. He was my first student when we opened the studio. We had 5 students.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And Tony was one of them. But yeah, so then at 21, I started the studio, and it was fun. And to piggyback off of intuition, back in those days, there was no social media. And I didn't have, since I was so novice, I didn't have like a greater knowledge of dance. I really could just use my intuition to create. So I didn't have a reference point for anything. I was definitely like new to dance. I just loved it. So I was just kind of like anything that was popping in my mind, then I would just create that. And that became super, super fun. And then the studio was kind of growing and gaining success at the same time. that social media was also coming. So it was really interesting because it felt like the more access I had to things that were happening in the grander scheme of things, the more my creative brain got, because then my brain started to want to figure out what was good, what was cool, whatever. So anyway, that was just an interesting thing about creativity, because when I was actually like sheltered from it all and I could listen to what actually was fun for me to create, that was the secret. That was the magic sauce. That was the secret to success and my happiness. Actually, I loved being able to create just for the sake of creating, not to create to be cool or to win. And so that was an interesting thing. Anyway, then I met my husband at an airport in New York City. And then I felt like I've known him for lifetimes. So we very quickly started our life together. And that's when I had my daughter. Prior to that, I've always been interested in energy modalities, Reiki, psychics, metaphysical fairs, spiritual books, all of it. Like I've always just had my nose in some sort of esoteric curiosity, so to speak. So I got my life coaching certification when I had the studio, and I also was going to psychic school, and I also was going through Reiki training. But it's because I could see in the classroom that more was happening. Like there was something more than just teaching like a PK turn. Like these kids were, starting at 3 and going till 18. I wanted them, it was important to me to give them a big foundation for whatever outside of dance, but through dance. Does that make sense? So even then I was doing like improv meditations that were like chakra related, like even back in the day. And I just loved seeing people be in their bodies in such an authentic and free way. And I also loved being able to see how there was limitations when you give somebody freedom, actually. So I loved dropping into that portal of like, isn't this interesting? We don't feel safe actually having choice. And we don't feel safe actually listening to like the movement of the body, how it organically wants. So I've always loved that. But anyway, then I had my daughter at the studio. And that's when I started to question, like, I don't know if I want this to be my life with her, because I want to have family dinners and I want to put her to bed at a decent time. And I don't want to I noticed really quickly that I was putting my husband and my daughter last on the priority list and everybody else's kid and everything else first. So honestly, I would have never left the studio. It was my studio that I co-ran. I had a partner. I would have never had the courage to leave. And literally one day, Spirit said, enough. And I heard enough. And I went back to my computer and I was like, oh my God, like this is the end. I cannot do this anymore. And I told the kids, like, I'm done. You guys are going to be great. And it was just like Spirit was like, dropped me in my car and I drove home. And I never forget, because I came home and my husband was like, did you get off work early? And I was like, I quit. And he was like, what? I was like, no, like I quit. Like I quit my business. I don't know. But literally it was just like something moved me out of there. So then that's what led me into what I've now titled my spiritual shit show, because from that moment on till now, actually, it was almost like an unraveling of sorts of what my life became, which was not bad, but it just was starting to cycle so far out from who I really was and what I wanted. And, my identity was wrapped up in being Miss Julie. And so it became this like thing. And I remember saying when I was in the studio, I'm noticing that I am two different people. And when I am in the industry, I have to shapeshift into this person, but I like myself way better outside of that. So that was a very telling marker of I was liking who I was outside of this framework. And I think it was just the beast of success and maintaining success and keeping up with everything. And, it just became that out of control. And so, it unraveled. And then in the unraveling became massive amounts of healing, childhood, stories, family traumas. And then again, leaning onto the intuition part of it all, then I began to really use the energy tools for myself, which also, when I was doing this at the studio, I loved it because I was using energy tools in the studio too. And that was the first time I was like, this stuff works. Like this person who used to trigger me does not trigger me anymore. Or this event that I was able to set up my own energetic boundaries, happiness, setting intentions, the benefits of meditation. I was able to see all of that in real time in that life and how it was benefiting me. So anyway, that's why I like to teach it, because I know how important it has been in my own life and how it's such an energy shift. And here I am now. Yeah. And I'm also doing a trauma-informed somatic therapy. And so it feels like all of these pieces are now coming together in a way that all makes sense.
Yeah.
Are you doing trauma-informed? You're doing that practice for yourself, or you've created a practice that you're teaching to other people?
So I'm just still currently in the course, in the practitioner's course.
That's a great one.
And it goes back again to the original question of like intuition. And really it's this felt sense of who we are. Like if we can access our wisdom through the body, that's where it is. That's where our truth is.
Yeah, I'm so fascinated by the healing aspect of movement. And it's been massive for me lately.
So movement as a way to heal. I mean, is that part of your trauma-informed practice, or?
I teach love, and I just use dance as a tool. And I think teaching dance to students, what a great way to teach self-love and self-awareness, because you're in your body and you can do it. Like it sparks fun. It's really hard to not be feeling good when your body is in a state of celebration. My purpose in life is just to guide people to their light, no matter what modality it is, whether I'm teaching dance or I'm doing channeling work or I'm doing somatic therapy work, whatever it is, the whole point is for you to see the brilliance of yourself. And we are in these bodies. So how cool is it to be able to actually incorporate, again, what we've talked about, self-love? Like, oh my gosh, like I chose this body, I chose this journey, I chose this life, and really be able to honor and celebrate that. That's huge.
I love how you said, dancing as a celebration, because that's how, the origin of movement, intentions for prayer, holding that as key motivation or key drive to remembering yourself while you're dancing. I think that's always beautiful to come back to, because I think that's how one of the ways that movement started, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we're in these incredible, I always call it this meat suit. So what am I going to do with it? I want to have fun.
Oh, the meat suit. Wait.
And what about Braxton?
She does not dance the way I originally intended her. In my mind, I was like, oh she is going to be the best dancer ever. Like I had it laid out of what my child was going to be. She was going to be a superstar on stage. But the funny story is I was teaching and there was one little girl in the class and she had her hands perfectly placed on her back. They're 3 years old, straight legs, doing a little jazz walk, perfectly pointed toes. And I was like, oh, wow, she's going to be good. And then Braxton goes and she like clop hops across the floor. She turns around. She digs in her pocket, throws up like something, catches it in her mouth, turns at me, winks, gives me a thumbs up, and then keeps like going down. I was like, all right, I think the writing's on the wall. I don't think she's going to dance. But she is not the dancer that I thought, but that is the cool part, because we do dance in the kitchen often. We do dance, together in our own way. So she does have a groove and she, is always kind of doing this, which I love. But me being able to step back and give her journey has also taught me so much and allowed my own world to expand. So if we stayed in dance and she danced, my world would still be that. But she is teaching me about all the things like basketball, and I coached basketball. I would have never thought that I would be a basketball coach. So I don't know. So letting her be in her journey too, it feels like both of our worlds get to kind of pulse out and expand. So there's been a huge surrender as a mom too, of letting go of my expectations for her life and letting her bloom and have a voice and get curious about things. And I have to support that.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what about your energy work? Do you do that with her? I mean, she's obviously a part of your world. She knows what you do. Is she into it?
She's definitely an old soul. Like if you meet her, she's cool. She's really, really cool. She's the kid that when people say they don't want kids, they always say, but if I can guarantee I had Braxton, I would have a kid. Like she's definitely an old soul. She's very compassionate. She's very wise. And also I think I left my first business and she was only 3. I got the opportunity to travel. So I started teaching more regularly in Beijing. My husband's from Vietnam, so we went to Vietnam. I had a brother who lived in Italy, so we went to Italy and Europe. So Braxton came with me that entire time. And every time I teach in Beijing, she comes with me. So she also has a grounded worldly experience, you know? So yeah, but definitely if I am teaching like a Reiki class at my house and it's going late and she comes home from school and she's seeing like this kind of movement happening, she is not alarmed by it at all. She just makes herself a snack and goes into her room.
Totally normalized.
It's totally normal. But it's really cool though, because, you know, this work, not only that I am teaching other people, but I'm also seeing, because the somatic class that I take is a bunch of therapists and, you know, older, 40s, 50s, doing this work, the somatic work. And it's the first time that they're invited to get into their body and or use meditation and visualization as a tool to either set their energy, clean their energy, protect their energy. So these are, you know, women who are just now getting exposed to this. And it is something that Braxton does all the time. You know, like she was homeschooled till the 3rd grade. And then when I sent her to school, I taught her how to ground your energy and how to bubble up. And so she does that every single day. So that way she's not consuming other people's energies. And I taught her, because she is also an empath, when she's feeling things, ask, is this mine or is this somebody else's? So sometimes she'll come home from school like, my stomach started hurting or I got a headache. And I just asked if this is mine or if this is somebody else's. And I heard it's somebody else's. And as soon as I just gave it out, she always picks, which I thought was wise. I was like, you do that innately? And she was like, yeah. If she's feeling other people's energies, she said she collects it and she finds an object to put it into.
Wow.
If she can't put it into like a tree or something outside, she'll just find any object that's close and choose to put it in that object. Isn't that cool?
That's so cool.
I know.
I mean, the empath stuff is really great that you gave her something, because this whole like codependency on other people's feelings, like, you know, especially with kids, it can be very confusing for them, especially if they are empathetic, but then also like, you know, what are my emotions, or what are someone else's, or why am I feeling this way because someone else is feeling this way? I mean, it makes it so simple and clear what she's doing, and like the talk that you gave her, or the techniques that you gave her to really separate those things. I think that has got to help stay away from the codependency that can sometimes exist in families emotionally, or classrooms emotionally, for sure. I mean, you got 25 kids and a lot of stuff goes on in there, you know, and a lot for teachers to navigate, but you know, it also hits the kids. Yeah. Can you just go back to, you taught her how to ground and how to bubble up. Can you explain bubble up?
Yeah. So I'll give a short, simple version. It's kind of like anytime you can surround your field, we have so many energetic protection tools. And it's just like, you know, when you meet somebody, you either walk away from them and you're like, wow, I just feel so like lighter or brighter just from being in their presence. Or you can be like, I feel so drained. Like, I don't know what, but that was draining. And this is all energy and frequency. So again, going back to the point of intuition, we all have it, and we all feel, whether you call it vibes or the energy was off or I had this intuitive hit, we are all kind of sensing and tracking what is happening energetically in the field at all times. And then if you're highly sensitive and highly empathetic, you know, if somebody cries and you start crying, more than likely you're absorbing their information, and their energy, which I think is a beautiful thing, because we are meant to be in community. We are meant to share stories. We are meant to heal together. So it's this practice that we do innately, that we are here to really help and absorb and gain and inspire and uplift other people in the field. But if you don't know that's what's happening, then you can just continue to absorb other people's stuff. So with Braxton, the bubble up is before she's going into school or, basketball, or when we go to concerts together, we put up this bubble, and it's just, you can just imagine a light surrounding you. And it can also just be something that is, in more technical terms, you're accessing your auric field and allowing your auric field to strengthen and act as a shield for you. So that way the information can stay in here before it comes and becomes a felt sense within the body. So we just bubble up, and then we set the intention that things that do not serve me stay on the outside, and those that come in, then they can come in. But then it's just like a nice protective. And it's quick. I just say bubble up, and she's like, I know. Okay. So that's one thing. The grounding part, which I love to teach, and you can try it in your classes, because you can feel it in your body. But, the body speaks in images and imagination. So we can never really command it to do something through the words. It really has to be a felt sense and using the imagination, which is why meditation and imagery and using, being in the imaginary helps so much. It makes things and our ability to access the body's wisdom. But we also are this incredible bridge between what's happening up here in the ethers, and we're humans. So it's that blend of we're spiritual and we're human, so we are we're this incredible, beautiful light just mashed into this meat suit. And we're trying to navigate this world and all the things that come with this world. So we have to intentionally ground ourselves to this present moment. So a quick thing is just putting on a root system. So you just imagine tree roots growing from your hips, going down the legs into the earth, connecting into the core of the earth. And if you do this in real time in class with partners, you stand across from somebody, you just give them a couple nudges, allow them to feel what it feels like to be rocked off their center. Then you have them put on a grounding cord, use their imagination, feel it really, really strong, anchored, rooted, and then you give them nudges again. And 99% of the time, the response is the same, that they are stronger in their body, they're more resilient, and both parties notice it, because when they are pushing, they're like, whoa, they're so much stronger. And the person who has the grounding cord on notices that they're swayed, but there's just a lot more strength and resilience. So with Braxton, I have taught her that. And so when we're going into situations too, we just put a little quick grounding cord on and bubble up. But we just do bubble up. And at night, she's always giving energy out. If it's not hers, she'll give it back. Or she does not give it back. She's wiser. I give it back to them. She doesn't. She sends it out into the grass or the trees for them.
Oh. I want to do that with my girls. That is so inspiring. My goodness. And it's so simple, right?
Well, and the cool thing is when you're teaching and you're like, oh my God, these kids are 17, 18, 19, they're wise. They're really, really wise, and they're really, really cool. And all of this type of information is very accessible to them now. Mm-hmm. So there is a nice, law of attraction isn't so woo-woo, or, understanding that you might be an empath and picking up people's energies isn't so woo-woo anymore. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I love teaching it to them.
Creative Mamas Unplugged is produced by Breatheasy Productions with music by Jeremy Jurin. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to give my mama 5 stars and keep coming back. Thanks to us kids, there are plenty of stories to tell. And you are not alone. Bye for now.